Welcome to Season 2 of the Parody, where we tally up to victims in our favorite media. I'm Chelsea Rose, and today we're looking at Shed 17, released in 2015. Shed 17 is a Thomas and Friends mockumentary about the true origins behind these characters. And I already know I'm gonna get a bunch of stuff wrong in this video, but whatever. There's a lot of weird shit going on in here, along with a couple of kills along the way, so yeah, there's that. Oh no, man, let's start off Season 2 with a short intro and get to the kills. The movie begins with a few then and nows, I guess. What's going on here? Apparently, between the invention of Thomas and his friends and nows, things have gotten to shit on Sodor Island. A narrator comes on to tell us the obvious. These characters are really not as they seem. And he knows exactly where to tell us. A title card! Our story begins in 1945, where the island of Sodor has remained completely unaffected. A lot of Germans lived on Sodor, including Professor Wilhelm Goetze, who was experienced in biology and also was associated with
Adolf Hitler, command of the Third Reich. Little known fact, also dope on the mic.
However, by the time of World War II, the family had left the country because, yeah.
Adolf Hitler.
He had an important role in the German government, but there was increasing competition before the war started up. As the experiments topped themselves more, his family was more unsafe where they lived, so they had to flee over to England. Even after the fall of Nazi Germany, his family still lived in the United Kingdom, and his son Hans quickly became another revered figure in biology. Specifically biofusion, which caused the British government to also have their own concerns about the Goetze family. That didn't stop him from starting up Sodor research in 1962, which eventually got connected to the island's extensive railway system. And by this time, he looked like his father's old friend. In 1968, he had a baby, and oh my god, what the fuck is that? Like deadass, how does this face and this face make Thomas here? That didn't stop Thomas from being a pretty jolly kid, and during the start of the VHS era, he was even friendly with this jolly old bloke.
Sodor.
However, as the railway system expanded, things got more controlled.
Boy, get off my f***ing platform.
Oh, come on, Topham, would you say that to this bowler hat guy in the back? You know, one that didn't travel into the future. As was shown, like, just a few seconds ago, Sir Topham Hatt was a complete bitch. They say he just let it rot over time, but that didn't really stop Sodor from having more advancements in the railway system, for one reason or another. You see, one day in 1978, Thomas wanted to get a train on his camera just for the love of the game. Even though there were signs telling him to stop, look, and listen, he just walked right onto the railroad tracks and didn't do a thing. You know, except for recording this train slamming into him for a very sudden first kill. It ended up being filed under repeated paragraphs in the papers. It was so bad that Hans had to go into this, engineering place. He locked himself and his father in there, and no one knew what he was doing for quite some time. After a year in the Tattle Shed, it was reopened in 1979 to unveil Thomas. And hey, he's looking more like the Thomas we know of now. What an engineered feat! Wait, are those the same repeated paragraphs from the death paper? What the fuck? He was all over the news back then. We learned that Keith, who's this guy, was interviewed about him back then. However, his reactions were less than positive. I don't get why this barf bit goes on for so long. Huh, great. Finally back to Thomas. Aside from all that news stuff we just saw, Thomas was an impressive feat in, like, bioengineering. However, he still had to be operated by some people, which could cause some internal problems. But it was still impressive enough that even a few badly photoshopped people wanted to be biofused. However, they were all declined, which possibly even includes Sir Topham Hatt himself. Instead, he used his money to become a powerful figure within Sodor research. But it came at the cost of the biofused engines being allowed to work on the railways, which you should not let them do. That was something the people on the island didn't want to see, but the tourists, they absolutely loved this shit. And because of those greedy policies, they kept on chugging along. That includes this really funny footage of Thomas getting blood and shit everywhere. What the fuck? Scooting past Harold the helicopter, we get our first feeling footage of Mavis the quarry diesel. Keith here thought he was doing a really good job, but things got a little too out of hand. Her internal organs started burning and eventually got spread over to her face, cementing Mavis the Quarrodiesel as a quarry idol. Unbeknownst to anyone else, there are actually a few other failed experiments that weren't known to the public because of, lost shit, I don't know. But for some reason, some of them were shown off to tourists during the off-season for, I don't know, something? But it turns out a few were already dead, and one we can't add to the count right now is Percy. However, as for Thomas, he was a fun old chap. Sodor Research eventually started selling their technology to other countries, which Hans Goetze didn't really like. A lot of freaky things were happening with the trains, and he knew that would probably lead to some sort of train slavery, so he decided to resign. However, as we can see in this reconstruction, his father took a different route. I can't really say how Wilhelm resigned, but in any case, it ended up with him being added to the parody. But at least his death was modeled after an old friend. Adolf Hitler! Especially after Wilhelm got shot, Sodor Research wanted to keep every single accident a little secret within the island, but because of Gordon, the big engine, that never happened. In front of everybody there, including Sir Topham Hatt, Gordon began to malfunction heavily. That led to his eyes fucking exploding all over the camera, and him exploding to a bunch of blue flames. Fuck yeah! You can even see his fire from this faraway camo. Now that's a great kill. Up next on the schedule is Harold's first time flying out. Guys, he's gonna do great, trust me. Looks like his internal organs couldn't keep him together. However, it seems like the only two engines that were actually doing fine were Henry and Thomas. Henry was also pretty popular among tourists, but he was less perfect than Thomas in some ways. It's like stumbling into Shed 17 and seeing what's inside it. That's against your standard protocol. Yeah, you better get the fuck out of there. Henry confronted Hatt about it in a feud that'll basically end up killing the entire Sodor train industry as we know it. But even if it wasn't meant to be for him, Henry still advised Thomas to stay away from Shed 17. Eventually, Henry had a new job, working on the Flying Kipper train line, which was basically a murder mission. What we do know about Henry before he entered Shed 17 is that he was one of the more joyous trains, and I guess that was something Hatt didn't like. And oh yeah, the Flying Kipper refers to an accident that happens in both the books and the show, although in here, it's explained that Hatt changed some of the details to make it less, well, disturbing. What actually happened that night is that Henry was onto a train line that had a gas tanker train at the end of it for some reason. In any case, Henry crashed hard into it, causing a giant explosion that killed both the firemen operating inside of him. The crash gave Hatt a perfect excuse to send Henry over the crew. The way Hatt framed the situation to the public, it just looked like Henry was going to become a better engine that wouldn't have such a crash happen. But as we know from the past 25 minutes, this is exactly what Hatt wanted to happen.
They'll give you a new shape and a larger firebox.
Apparently, said shape is a numbers graphic, as Henry is disassembled for scrap off screen. That left Thomas as the only alive engine remaining, so he decided to go against Henry's wishes and go inside Shed 17. His voyage wasn't really all that long, but when he gets inside, he sees some sort of blue glowing stuff. Oh, and 2 failed Thomas clones I'll go ahead and add to the count, even though it seems a little weird to do so. And no, I am not adding the skellies! Thomas eventually scoots his way over to what made him and all the kills in this parody possible. Inside the glowing nuclear stuff, I think, it's the building prey for all the trains just trying to escape. Thomas doesn't like what he's seeing at all, so he exposes his skeleton and innards out to the outside world. What? Dude, I don't even know if I can show some of this stuff. Oh my god. The kill eventually ends with him ripping off his train face and exposing his skull too. Oh my god. I was not expecting that. The screaming goes on for a minute and only ends when Keith said that Thomas was actually useful for something. I guess that's putting an end to Sodor Research and its railway industry almost entirely. Later on, biofusion was finally banned, especially after a failed 1984 test that gives us one final kill to add to the count with Larry DeLoco. After all these disasters, Sir Topham Hatt disappeared without a trace and biofusion was phased out almost entirely worldwide. However, I can't say the same for China, as it ended up being normalized there. The video ends with a post-credits scene showing a Costa Concordia ship underwater, still with a face. However, I'm not gonna add him since it seems too much like a corny post-credits scene only tacked on for some scares. In any case, let's see how many biofused engines got biofused onto the kill count. Hey, this background's back. Did you miss it? By my count, we had 13 kills in Shed 17. The victims consisted of 12 men and 1 woman, giving us this 100% organic pie chart. We've seen this number twice before on the parody of We Deleted You and Danganronpa the Animation, both some of the first parodies of 2024. With a runtime of 36 minutes, that left us with a kill on average every 2.77 minutes. I'm definitely giving Amethyst Flamethrower to Thomas, because even if I don't know why he did that, that's still an all-timer visual for sure. Conversely, Broken Pistol will go to the 2 Thomas clones we saw in Shed 17, because I don't even know if I should have added them to the count. And that's it. Shed 17 was released in 2015 and kicks off the official Season 2 of the parody. We're near again on episode 200, which is pretty crazy, but that probably won't be around till Christmas. Until then, I'm Chelsea Rose, and it's been the parody.
It's the thriller song that you know and love, featuring DreamWorks Animation's Shrek characters.